Join Marty Johnson, the holistic health practitioner and founder of Total Health Nutrition Center in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, as he delivers these podcasts to enlighten you and give you hope that there are health solutions to conditions that seem difficult to resolve, or even better answers than a medical approach of prescribing a chemical drug, which most times is nothing more than a Band-Aid fix, rather than getting to the root cause of your problem. The mission of the Total Health podcast is to provide the education and support that will lead to transforming people's healths so they can live a much more efficient, productive, and happier life the way God intended it to be. Join him now for his latest podcast.
All right, so today we're going to talk about our retail store. So this is Marty Johnson, and I'm Christian here, who is our retail manager and extraordinaire. Pretty much manages both our locations in New Berlin and Menominee Falls. He pretty much runs the whole show in that area of retail. We also have a clinic. So today I want to talk about what makes our retail operation, as far as the nutrition store, different than maybe some of the other stores out there, and what makes us unique. Our model really is very unique because we have a full service clinic along with a retail store. But I would really like to just have a conversation with Christian to hopefully benefit you and showing you, what some of the differences. So the first one, first of all, I want to welcome you, Christian. So thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Yes. So yes, I would like to just talk about, what our standards are and what we follow that might set us apart. Primarily our goal and our mission is to really serve our customers in a way and provide the facilities and the support and the information that can lead to hopefully transforming people's lives so they can live better and impact other people. But there's a lot that goes into making sure that we're doing all the right things to offer them the right products and the right information. So I thought maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So there's this thing out there called GMP. So a lot of our suppliers where we get products from, we look for certain standards, right?
Yes.
So GMP is something that you'll see on certain bottles of product. We usually look for that when we screen out our suppliers. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that means?
Yes, it stands for Good Manufacturing Practices. It may or may not be on the bottle, but it often talks about it on their websites because we are buying typically from manufacturers.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is to get better control and to limit middlemen. When you buy from a manufacturer, you're assured of getting that product directly from the manufacturing warehouse or the contract manufacturer who ships it. That ensures better dates, and if there's issues with damage, we can rectify those things right away. So going off on a small tidbit, when a customer has an issue with a product, they then return it to us, and we take care of that for them. So that's the benefit of going through the manufacturer. Back to the original question, our manufacturers, we're looking for them following standards such as organic, but particularly non-GMO, which means non-genetically modified organisms. We're always looking for certain things, or whether it be some people are looking for vegetarian products, vegan products, but we do not espouse that lifestyle, but we're looking for purity. That's the biggest difference, and we ban hundreds of ingredients, particularly in skincare.
Okay. Yeah, the pharmaceutical companies that produce drugs, they got to follow certain standards by, kind of governed by the FDA. Oftentimes we hear that, the nutrition industry really isn't regulated. But from my understanding, this good manufacturing practice that companies actually voluntarily shoot for to get that status. It's a regulation practice that does bring that credibility in play. Is that correct? Or
it is.
Yeah.
Because we're not dealing with pharmaceutical type industry standards, we're dealing with pure standards, which means products are coming from natural grown sources such as plants, herbs, fruits, vegetables. And in some cases, like the collagen will be more of a bovine or the whey products would again be bovine. So there are a number of sources that we're trying to get from the minimally processed standards of manufacturing.
Okay, got it. When it comes to being in this industry, in the health industry, and working in it, and really being focused on it, how many years have you been in this industry overall?
Wow.
On estimation.
It is, golly, if I truly go all the way back, it's going to be close to 40 years. I started doing something like this when I was just a teenager.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, before I was supposed to be working, I was already working.
Yeah.
So, my transition has been vast. I mean, I started in the regular grocery industry, which today is it's embarrassing. Well, the United States has arguably the best food supply in the world. It has arguably the most tainted food supply. I mean, Europe, Asia, even the South America, they ban some of the ingredients that we allow on our everyday shelves at whatever supermarket you pick. So it's a major transition, and it was just the right thing for me to do, to get away from the mass-produced consumer goods into the more specialized health products that help sustain us and maintain us instead of waiting until we're sick we often do here in the USA.
It's more preventative and everything.
Indeed.
Well, that's what really, impressed me, like when you and I first met, is I could tell your passion for just, number one, wanting to help people, but also wanting to make sure that there's, quality being represented, by our store. So I really feel blessed that we got together on that and had the privilege of working together. I myself have about 30 years into this industry, and I feel like a lot of it is just evolving, more and more, where industry is becoming more aware of the quality and how they meter it. Which brings me to my next point is we really try to work with manufacturers that a lot of them have their own in-house labs where they check the raw materials that are going to go into their products. They're actually being screened through their in-house labs for purity. So from what I've seen, between Christian and I both, we were just talking before here that we've really visited a lot of these manufacturers to make sure that they're doing what what they're claiming to, and that they do have the labs. You were just out at a manufacturer recently, right?
Yes, Olson, Northern Illinois.
Yeah. Okay.
So while they don't manufacture everything, they do test their products in-house.
Right.
And more importantly, what you were saying is many of these vendors, especially if they're not the manufacturer, if they're buying ingredients like herbal remedies like Terry, they actually test them, make sure they match. And that's one of the frustrations we face, and sometimes our customers don't always understand, is there'll be times where an item, you just can't get it.
Yeah.
It frequently happens through our company like Nutraceutical or Threshold when they're trying to, like a Source Naturals product. If they're out of something, of an herb, or if it does not meet the standards that they uphold, that they're setting, they'll send the shipment back.
Right.
They will not take it. And I appreciate that very much, because then it means I have greater trust in that.
Right.
So when we're out, we just have to put signs up and explaining to our customer, like for instance, right now, a uric acid flush is out, it's been out, and I don't even know what's going to come in. There's a shortage of one ingredient, or it didn't match the test results. And they're not going to put in a cheaper alternative. And that's what's frustrating about the normal stores. They'll just do that. They'll go out and get another product and they'll slap a different label on it. These manufacturers are sincerely offering what they consider to be the best ingredients. Yeah. And it's the good and it's the bad all intertwined.
Right, yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, like a good example would be as if a manufacturer, let's say there's a specific herb that goes into one of their products, and that raw material or batch of herb comes in from their supplier, and they test it in their lab, and they find that, well, it has a higher amount of lead than it should. They'll just reject the entire batch of raw material, send it back, and actually not be able to sell that product until they get that right raw material in, which is, on their part, they could have received it and got the product out there and made money on it, but their ethics are high enough where they do that and just say, hey, we're going to have to be out of it. Is that
Absolutely.
What you're saying?
Okay. Like for instance, if a product has like 4 ingredients and one of them does not meet it, even though there's 3, they will not produce that product until that 4th ingredient passes their standards. Okay. And that is why sometimes we're out of things.
Yeah, right.
That's basically the only time we're out of things is when they're out of it. Yeah. We order in advance. We don't wait till the shelf's empty, like most stores. But it's a small frustration, but it gives me that sense that they are genuinely trustworthy.
Right. Right, and we want to obviously provide the best for the consumer as well.
Indeed.
And that gives us a good feeling that way. A lot of these companies also do independent laboratory analysis, which basically means that they're using an independent lab that is not attached to them to verify the authenticity and the purity of their products. Can you speak to the importance on that and why,
yes.
and why we look for that?
Indeed. Most companies do internal work, but it's critical to do both for this reason. What if somebody makes a mistake? A third party, which has nothing to do with the company at hand, is getting paid to do a service by checking the numbers and how they rank.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them if it's this company X or that company meaning Y. Mm-hmm. And then they produce those analyses and turn them over to the manufacturer. They can have them on hand.
Right.
The nice thing about a lot of the companies is they're actually producing a code where you can actually read it right off the code by even using your phone. They'll tell you oftentimes where the product's from, where it's made, and even sometimes even the time of the day.
Sure.
In addition to the date.
Cool.
And it gives the customers some reassurance that, especially in lieu of some imported products or companies that purchase things or manufacture things in certain countries like China that have definitely controversial manufacturing practices. Mm-hmm. And then it gives them a customer a reassurance as well as a vendor or a store person like myself with something that I'm putting on the shelf is cleared. Okay. So that third party is critical, and they will go out and get a third party that will either certify or say that these products don't match the standards that are placed for them.
Got it. Yeah.
So it really gives that. It's like an insurance policy.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier you had mentioned non-GMO, and real briefly, can you just really kind of touch on that and what your standards are as far as genetically modified substances being in any of the products in our store? What is your standards on that, and what does that mean? If you could kind of just really briefly,
about 10, 12 years ago, organic was the big thing. Yeah. And now that it's become mainstream and that between 5 and 6% of all food consumed in the USA is organic, some people have moved into the GMO. Okay. When it's organic, it is automatically non-GMO. Non-GMO means it's not been altered in a lab. It's something that's is minimally processed from the ground or from animals like cows or whatever. So what we're trying to do is offer the cleanest ingredients. Simpler the better. For instance, while we're not a food store per se, we do have some food products. And while you go down to the supermarket aisle and you could find literally probably 120, 150 varieties, if you go into a Woodman's, more so, and just chips and snacks. We'll carry a small amount, but most of them all have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 ingredients. You'll go to supermarkets and look at the chips, and they'll have sometimes 20, 30 ingredients because all those flavors. Those flavors mean more ingredients, and sometimes the word is so big it's larger than the alphabet. That's why I always tell people if it looks foreign to you and you can't pronounce it, it's probably not natural.
Right.
Then on the other hand, there are certain products like 7-Up that say they're natural. Well, we don't believe high fructose corn syrup is natural. It's been altered.
Right. Yeah.
There are good sugars and there are very bad sugars. And while we, particularly, of course, through the clinic, try to limit that as much as possible, because America consumes way too much sugar, we limit ingredients, and we're looking for the purest sources. So it either must be organic, non-GMO. We never knowingly sell anything with synthetics or chemicals, except many of the melatonin products have a small amount of synthetics in it. Although a new brand we just brought in by Natural Factors is guaranteed to be synthetic free, and that's why when someone's looking for melatonin, I will recommend that brand over any other.
Sure. Yeah.
Our job is always, or maybe my job, and Sue helps me, is to get the best products on the shelf. They may be big brands and they may be really small brands, and we will order things based on interest and viability and purity of ingredients. Those are our standards. I often require, almost always, new manufacturers to provide me with samples, not just taste them, because taste is not as important, because especially with supplements, but to see the bottles, to see the ingredients, to see if it's an actual company, see where they're produced, if it's got an actual UPC label, and to see what kind of standards they have on them. Yeah. So by doing that, we can ensure we're getting greater control over the products that we're going to ultimately recommend or customers will be seeking.
So on that, that's fantastic. And on that note, you and I have had many conversations about this. And do all the stores out there, that there's various different, health stores and some bigger companies out there, corporations, things like that. We won't mention any names, but do all of the companies or the stores out there have the ability to really control their inventory like we do, or like you were just saying? And can you speak a little bit to our ability to do special orders for people? In other words, there's no store that can have every single thing, available, but what we do to try to make it available or find it, I think what you've done is extraordinary, and gone to extraordinary lengths to find things for people that are unique, that they're looking for, that we may not carry. But can you just give us the quick differentiation between what we do and what other stores are able to do?
Yeah. Yes. Most stores, even if they're not very large, still have to go through committees or some type of a corporate mentality. Here, I tell the customers, if you've got a request, I'll look into it. They sometimes call, they sometimes stop in, they sometimes text or email me. They'll sometimes bring in their empty packages because I want to see it. Give you an example. Just yesterday, a customer came in and they were looking around, and we were at our new store in New Berlin, and she just said, "Do you have this product?" And I says, "No." And so we did some digging, and we actually found it online and we were able to show it to her. And then I said to her, I says, well, apparently the good news, it's still available. The bad news is I'm not going to be able to sell it. And here's why. I hope please don't feel bad, but there is a plethora of artificial ingredients in this product. So I gave her the phone number, and I said, please, I'm not telling you shouldn't buy it. I'm just telling you that it does not meet our standards. There have been times where an item or two here may not meet our standards, but if a customer was willing to buy the product and how it comes, which often like a case, I'll sell it, but it's not advisable. We don't want to sell our customers things that we don't believe are natural. We encourage special orders. In fact, we have a slip up front, and both stores have been trained on it. If they think that we don't have it, or we don't have something that is viable for them, and they insist that this is something that works for me, this is something I want, we're going to do our very best to get it in. We will open up accounts just based on that. My attitude is if one person asks for a product, there are always 10 more. That's my rule of thumb. Sometimes people don't want to say it. They're like, oh, they don't have it. I'll just go look elsewhere. I don't want them going elsewhere. If we can get them to come here, we can support them and provide their needs, they win, and we ultimately win. So we take every single special order. I call everybody back or email them or whatever, or I'll have the staff call them back. But our standard is if we can get it, we'll order it.
Sure. And so from my understanding, not all stores will do that, especially if they're corporately run.
They're not allowed.
They're kind of locked into.
Yeah, they have to go. Even a local co-op here, manufacturers have to set up a meeting, which takes weeks, and they have to sit in front of a big, large buying committee, and they have to vote on it.
Right. Yeah.
My attitude is, if the customer standing in front of me wants that item and I can't get them something that's viable, or they're like, this is what I want.
Right. Yeah.
And if there's room for it and there's a viability, I will order it. And sometimes we can order a one by one bottle. We have so many resources, which is so great.
Right, being independently owned,
We can order from so many different places, and most of the time we can get it quickly. Sometimes within a day or two.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might take a week.
Okay.
But we have such great flexibility, and in this day and age, I think it's important that we be quick to respond, because people sometimes have whims, and sometimes they might be onto the next item.
Right.
So we want to we want to react to that right away.
Sure.
So it's correct that most stores cannot make that decision. It's pretty much corporate driven.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On the lines of Christian, you had mentioned we want to get that product in as soon as we can, and we want them to be, more or less shop with us. And part of the motivation is because we know that we have a staff, and our staff is highly trained in being able to talk about nutrition and about how it applies to people's health needs when they come in. So as one of the advantages that we've had is that we do have a full service clinic, and we have health professionals, holistic practitioners, herbalists, and different professionals here, where our retail staff actually is getting trained on from those people. So we have our own kind of training network. It's like our own closed loop internal podcast network where practitioners do trainings, and then all the retail people can listen to that and grow in their knowledge to be able to better help people. So I always say that our retail is almost like kind of going to a larger scale health clinic and getting help and being able to get directed towards a very viable product that fits their need. And that, I think that's a pretty unique aspect that we can offer, with our model. And then coupling that with all of the great extents that you've gone into making sure that they're getting a pure product is what we hope to be really a standout delivery of service and quality and so forth. Would you agree on that?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And what the benefit we have by ordering from manufacturers, then they know when we take on new lines or new items or line extensions of products that they already have, that they need to come in here and help us understand why this is a good option for a customer. Mm-hmm. For instance, just because marketing does a good job of putting together a good product doesn't mean it's going to sell. Mm-hmm. And they may have a great marketing campaign and a great label, but we need to know why we would even recommend that product in the first place. Mm-hmm. So we'll have the manufacturer reps come in and sometimes do a training one-on-one. Sometimes it'll be a myriad of information that I go through and put together maybe a one-page sales sheet, so to speak, on. Or sometimes we'll have them just come and talk to the entire staff. Sure. It does vary, but almost all of our companies are required to do that in some extent, because it doesn't do any good just to have pretty products on the shelf. Right. They need to be used. Yeah. And so if they're being utilized, we'll sell them. If they're not, and customers don't want them, then we have to find items that the customers do want. Yeah. And in addition, you provide us with podcasts talking about items that can help customers so that we can make better recommendations too. Sure. So that they're not just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. They're literally getting some information. Yeah. Most of the staff has also been certified to sell CBD, which that's a good point. Everybody has today. I mean, just a year ago, people are like, what's CBD? Or people come in and go, do you sell CBD? Yeah, it's okay, we sell CBD. Yeah. Well, now everybody knows about it. Yeah. And it's even at your local gas station. But what are they selling is the problem. Right. Most of it's incomplete. It's full of lots of ingredients that aren't natural or healthy. Pesticides, chemicals, high THC, no THC, a wide gambit, and no wonder why there's confusion. Yeah. So we have a lot of staff members that are trained in this. Yeah. We don't know everything, but we know quite a bit. Right. And we address those questions so the customer feels a sense of, wow, because where do they go? What do they buy? I mean, you can buy anything online today, but can you get valuable information? And that's what really sets us apart. Right. The other stores, they're not training their staff. They're not taking the time. They're saying, just stock it. Yeah, right. Let the customer buy it. Yeah, and even, with that being said, like a lot of our staff members, like Christian said, they're trained, or like you said, they're actually certified in CBD understanding. In other words, they went through a course on it. But, even before we work with a lot of these manufacturers, we put them through all of these criteria that we've been talking about to even get on our shelf. And then they're also trained to know what you can combine CBD with. So, in other words, if you go online and say, well, I want to buy a CBD, well, okay, what for? If it's specifically for pain, then there might be other things that you want to combine it with to make it actually work much better. Or if it's for sleep, then no, you want to combine it with this to make it work much better than it would be just by itself. And those things you can't just magically find out. But those are things that our staff can actually offer to help with. Yeah, so that's cool. But anyway, we're hoping that this was helpful to you and really just to give you a sense of what sets us apart and what a true, really focused health food store should be delivering. We feel we try to fit that criteria as all the areas that a health food store should deliver to give you the best possible service and quality. So I thank you for joining us and listening to this podcast. Hopefully it was a blessing to you, and we'll look forward to talking with you on our next topic coming up. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Total Health Podcast. If you'd like more information about how Total Health can transform your health, check them out. They would love to set up a free consultation with you over the phone. Call them at 262-251-2929 to make that appointment. Otherwise, you can check them out on the web at www.totalhealthinc.com.